everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sportsbook Confidential. We're live in the FingerLicks1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And my name is John Sullivan, and this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And let's get right into it. As we often do, let's start by updating My Bankroll. Now, we didn't have a show last week, so this is actually from 2 weeks ago. But if you want to take a look here, you can see that I finally had my first 5-0 week on the show, and that was we finally have some upward trend in the bankroll here. So as you can see, I started that week with a bankroll of 566, and we had 5 wagers. We had the Capitals money line, and that was plus $24. We had the Syracuse Notre Dame under, and that was a winner at $18. The Calgary Saskatchewan under, which was also $18 winner. The Houston Texans and Skins over, and finally we had the Broncos plus 7.5, and they won that game by 1 point. So if you do the math, that comes up to $661. So we're almost back to where we started, which is good. But we get to increase the bet size to $22, and that'll help us hopefully going forward, as we always divide by 30 of our bankroll for our next week's wagers. So that is where we're at. So I'm going to mix things up a little bit today, and I have a couple of tweets that I want to talk about, and I'm going to do that first because I'm going to tie it in to the sportsbook lesson this week. And keep in mind that this show, my lessons are for beginning sports bettors and people that might be wagering at the local casino before it, it's going to open soon, I think in June, we're hoping. So you come across certain things. The landscape is definitely changing, and people that are in the sports betting media industry. So there's 2 tweets I want to talk about. And the first one is this tweet from Bill Krackomberger he's on the VSIN radio network. That's Brent Musburger's gambling channel that's on satellite radio. Anyway, he links himself to an article he wrote for another website, and he says he's talking about sports betting. You cannot do this part-time and expect to be successful. And I read the article. I'm not going to put it up there, but he talks about how he had a friend that made a good living in another, a normal 9-to-5 job, and saved up $50,000 and decided he was going to become a professional sports bettor. It didn't talk at all about what his betting habits were like before he decided he was going to become a pro. He just made it sound like the guy woke up one day and he wanted to be a pro bettor, and he just quit his job and went to Vegas. And then he talks about how the guy got into alcohol, and he got into playing craps, and he was not managing his bankroll, and he was leaking, as they say in the poker world. And basically what he's trying to say here is not everybody can do this. To me, when I look at this tweet, I say, what does it mean to be successful? So what I'm going to talk about right now is what is a professional bettor, because, we're talking semantics here, but he says you can't be successful and be part-time. So he's saying you have to be full-time to be successful at all, or to just be a professional. Or, he's saying you need my advice if you're going to succeed. In other words, he's saying that kind of backhandedly. And that struck me as a little bit odd. So what I want to do is talk a little bit today about what exactly is a professional bettor in my eyes. And it might be a little different in my eyes than it is in his eyes. So let's start with the definitions here. The standard definition of a pro bettor is basically someone who derives most or all of their income from wagering on sports. And you can be, to be a pro, you obviously have to have bankroll. You have to have discipline. You have to have not only insight into the markets, but a way to both place and collect the wagers. And then, of course, on the other side of the coin, we have a recreational bettor, and that is somebody who's doing it not necessarily with a profit motive. A bettor who, the dry definition is a bettor who does not make a living from their wagers. However, can this rec bettor be profitable? You bet your butt. Rec bettors can be very good at sports betting, even though they do not make most of their income from betting. And so I want to talk a few more. So basically what I want to say is what good is Bill Krakenberger's professional advice? Obviously we know that rec bettors can be profitable and make money. Not very many bettors overall make money because a lot of people don't either have the skill set or they don't want to put in the work. But it doesn't mean you have to dedicate endless hours and ignore your family, your job, your life to be successful. And it's supposed to, you can be a serious, experienced bettor. That's what I like to call myself, an experienced bettor. I'm not a pro. I am profitable overall. As far as our bookkeeping on the show, I'm not profitable yet, but over a period of several years, I've been up. So you can be a serious, experienced bettor without going pro, and you can also be profitable without a large bankroll. If you're learning to be an experienced sports bettor, you don't want to be learning with large amounts of money. You want to start with small amounts of money where you'll be able to place your bet, you'll be able to collect your bet, and you can see how the market works firsthand. And obviously, if you are placing small amounts of money, you're not going to be moving those markets. The lines are not going to move just on your bets. But you can see, if you make a bet early in the betting window, before the game starts and the lines move, you can see, if you anticipated correctly, what the market believes on a game or, on a wager. So it's a learning experience, and you can do it, and I recommend doing it with very little money in the beginning, money that you can afford to lose, because in the beginning you're going to there's going to be a learning curve, and there's going to be a lot of losing days. And, even professional bettors have very, very bad days, weeks, months, and years. I've been betting NFL for 6 years, and, I've had 2 losers and 4 winners. So it happens over long periods of time. So to wrap this up, sports betting can be a fun, profitable activity for almost anyone. Obviously, you have to be of legal age. And you can something you can do with just a few bucks, a couple of beers worth of money. You can place a wager on a game. You can have fun with it. Just like playing fantasy sports, people have fun with it, and they have leagues amongst their friends, or some people play more seriously. But you do not need professional advice to learn and become an experienced sports bettor. That's what that's what this whole show is about. It's about learning things that will help you improve if you're just starting out. There's people that know way more than me about sports betting. I'm not going to deny that. So I'm sharing what I know, and as somebody who's been doing this for a while, I'm learning every year too. And you can always learn new things. So, and the more you learn that other people don't want to share what they know sometimes. So I look forward to continuing to do this, and it strikes me odd that there's a lot of people trying to take advantage of the expansion of sports betting and saying, you need to buy something from me if you're going to be successful. And I don't like that at all. And I have one more tweet I want to talk about, and our buddy Darren Rovell has just asked out of his ESPN contract and is on his way to the Action Network. And you folks that have watched this show regularly know exactly how I feel about the Action Network, that they're taking advantage of inexperienced bettors, of college-age bettors, and they're now they have taken this man who does not know as much about sports betting as he thinks he does, and he has a large following on Twitter. And I read an article where he was interviewed, and he would not say if he gets affiliate income from his new position, but he did say he was financially incentivized to bring people to the Action Network. So he is basically going to become an affiliate marketer, in my opinion, and he is going to, no doubt, in the next year or two, make some very misstep tweets about gambling. Now, in his background, there's some people wrote about his background this week. He used to write sports betting articles in the college newspaper he worked for, and yes, I looked at one of them, and it did have a lock of the week. And he has there was somebody posted a old tweet about how he misinterpreted the definition of a bad beat, which is not a big deal. I mean, bettors, whether you know the lingo or not, that's not something to really torture him over. But for somebody who's hired as a gambling expert, it leaves some doubt in your mind, to say the least. So, I wish Darren the best. My understanding was he made low to mid six figures a year at ESPN. He started out at ESPN, and then he was at CNBC for a few years. And I remember reading that when he signed back with ESPN, that it was a multi-year deal, and it was somewhere in the low to mid six figures a year. And he asked out of that contract to go to the Action Network. So he obviously believes that he can make more money there, or he can be more famous. Maybe that's what he's really shooting for. I don't know. But the Action Network continues to make moves that make me feel uneasy about their business model, and I hope they, can do something that will actually truly be helpful for sports bettors in the future. So that's it for the sports lesson and the gambling Twitter today. And let us now go to the games this week. And let's start with Friday night on Frozen Pond, the NHL. And we got 5 games on the schedule. And let's get started with our Buffalo Sabres at the Florida Panthers. And this game is interesting. The Sabres have been the hottest team in the NHL. They lost last night 5-4 to Tampa Bay in a very physical, mean, nasty, chippy game. And the Panthers play in Miami, and they play to an empty house pretty much every night. There may actually be more Sabres fans in the crowd than than Florida Panther fans. However, I would usually be all over the Sabres in this game because James Reimer is starting for Florida. Not a great goaltender. But Sabres are on a back-to-back. A couple of guys got injured. They finished the game with only 4 defensemen last night. I can't pull the trigger on that. I'll probably watch this game. I do like the Sabres to be competitive, but wager-wise, that's a pass for me. And then you got the Devils at the Capitals. And what I like about this game is the Caps should have Kuznetsov back, their top center, and they're rested. Both teams are rested. The Devils have really kind of struggled of late. Their goaltending's kind of come back to earth. They may have one of their top 6, Hersher, is still out. I'm not sure if he's going to play tonight or not, but I really like the Caps here. Not a fan of laying 165, but that may make my play. We'll see. And then you have the Ducks at the Hurricanes. And, the one thing that I've learned from betting on NHL is you get the most value. This game is definitely a value bet right here. you get the most value from the bad teams. The books offer a lot of value on the teams that are considered to be the lower teams in the league. And the Ducks are, not because they're bad, but because they've been injured. I think they have 5 guys, that would be on their 23-man roster that are on IR right now. And, in my opinion, the Ducks, at least on this year's performance, have the best goaltending tandem in the league right now with John Gibson and Ryan Miller. And they can definitely be competitive with anybody on most nights if their defense and their goaltending is healthy. Now, they have 2 of their top 6 defenders are out with injuries, but even the young guys that have come in to fill in have played really well. And the Ducks, if they can keep it a 3-2, a 2-1 game, they're never out of it. They really aren't, and their goaltending keeps, the score from getting away from them. So on most nights, you're getting plus 140 to plus 200 on the Ducks. They offer a lot of value depending who they're playing. And the Hurricanes are a beatable team. They're skilled on offense. Depending on who their goaltender is, I don't know who's playing tonight. McElhinney seems to have been the best of the goaltenders they've had active lately. They sent Scott Darling down. I was kind of hoping whenever I see Scott Darling play, I was trying to bet against him. But we'll see how that one goes. But that's a value play. And then also the Kings are another team that's considered down on their luck and playing a good Flames team. But Flames have 2 goaltenders, one that's been super Riddick, and Mike Smith, who's about 35 years old now. Smith has he's very inconsistent. He'll have 2 or 3 decent games, and then he'll just blow up and give up 5 or 6 goals in a game. And he's supposed to play tonight. You never know, you never know when that game is going to come with him. So the Kings, again, another value bet here, but they're playing back-to-back, and they just played a game in Edmonton that was 3-2 was the final. They lost. It's hard for me to pull the trigger on that one, but that's a really, value line right there. And then finally the Blues at the Avalanche. And the Blues have such inconsistent goaltending. That's been their major problem. They can score goals. They're a competitive team, but they really need to step it up on the defensive side. And the Avalanche play well at home. They have decent goaltending this year, and assuming they are healthy, you got to like them in this spot. But I certainly don't like that line. So we'll see what makes the cut in NHL on our picks. But we've also got this weekend conference championship weekend in college football. And we've got 5 games here. These are all conference championships. On Friday night, Northern Illinois versus Buffalo in the MAC title game. Buffalo minus 3.5, 51. I do like Buffalo offensively in this game. It's the defensive part that scares me. They have let other teams get back into games. Excuse me. And I would say 3. I would take Buffalo, but 3.5 does not excite me at all. I think that game is lined appropriately. And then you have the Big 12 championship, Texas at Oklahoma or versus Oklahoma. All these games are at neutral sites. Oklahoma minus 8, 77.5. You have Oklahoma with an incentive to run up the score because they're trying to get that last playoff spot for the national championship. However, I feel like that number is really, if Oklahoma put up 45, Texas has got to put up 38. I don't know. I don't see that happening. So I like the under there. 8's a lot of points. Texas beat Oklahoma earlier in the year. Oklahoma's played much better. So has Texas, for that matter. That's a pretty big spread. I would lay off that. And then you've got the SEC Championship, Georgia, Alabama in the Georgia Dome, the semi-home game for Georgia, I guess. But what can you say? Alabama's beaten everybody. Minus 13.5, 63.5 is the total. There's nothing that I can say about this, about Alabama that hasn't already been said. They've crushed everybody, but obviously they wouldn't. I don't think they would beat the Bills, but I think they can cover 13.5. The total I don't know about. It all depends on Georgia. Nobody's really been able to stop Alabama from putting up 30 in 29. I think is the lowest they've scored. The Citadel did better than anybody else, I guess. But it's up to Georgia to score the rest of those points to get an over. I don't know where that's at. I guess I would even lean under a little bit there, but I don't think I would touch that game either. The ACC Championship, Pittsburgh versus Clemson, minus 27.5. A lot of points. 52.5. I'm going to say that is an easy over. Pitt has a good offense. They can let it all hang out. They've got nothing to lose. But I really like Pitt plus the points here. Pitt they can hang with the big teams. They showed that against Notre Dame. They beat Syracuse. I could easily see them putting up 35 points in this game, 31. So Clemson would really have to score 60 to cover that 28-point spread. I don't see that happening. So all Clemson has to do is win this game, and they're the number 2, possibly the number 1 seed, depending on what Alabama does. So they're not going to try to run up the score. They're just going to try to win. I think they're going to play a little more conservative than they usually would. So I like Pitt plus the points here, and I definitely like the over in this game. And then finally, we have Northwestern versus Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. Ohio State minus 14 and 61. I don't know. Ohio State, if they played like they did last week, they'll definitely cover the 14. 61. This is another team with an incentive to run up the score, but that's a pretty high total to plan on Ohio State doing such. They could be up by 28 in the second half and start to grind the clock out. Don't know if I would touch that total, but if you feel comfortable laying 14, I feel like that's a game that they should handle. You never know with college football because players don't often always execute the game plan. That's why the professionals are called professionals, because that's what they can do. So let's move on to the week in the NFL. And boy, what a game last night. As an aside, I will say that I was watching the Saints, and it seemed like the perfect response to their early troubles was to go hurry up. And they never did. They tried to establish the run, and they did do a lot of jet sweeps to try to manage the clock and things like that. But boy, you would think that if that defense was, just getting the jump on you, that you would try to tire them out with a hurry up spread offense, and they never went for it because they were never down more than 2 scores. I feel like if Dallas had gone up by more than 14 points, that would have changed the game. I had the over on the game, and obviously that didn't come in. But NFL's a parity league, as they say. So let's see what we got here. We got the Bills at the Dolphins, minus 3.5 and 40. The Dolphins really hurt their playoff chances last week with that last-minute loss to Indy. So this game is kind of meaningless. They're not mathematically eliminated, and neither are the Bills. But I do like the over here. Weather should not be a factor. Both of these teams can kind of let it all hang out. There should be some. If there's enough flags, it'll easily go over. 40 is a really low number. Scoring on average is up this year. And the low totals are going over at an alarming rate, while the high totals are also going over at an alarming rate. So I like the over there, but the Bills could take that game. They've always have trouble in Miami, but Ryan Tannehill will, play to his level of competition. Bears at the Giants, +4, 44.5. Chase Daniel playing for the Bears. I don't like Eli against this defense. I don't think he's going to get enough time to throw the ball. But I feel like this game could be close. If this was +6, I think I would be on the Giants. It may get there. We'll see. But, that total would hit if the Giants can do their part and put up 14, 17 points. We'll see how their rushing game does against the Bears. That'll be very interesting to see, especially when the Bears, if the Bears make the playoffs, which I assume they will, how they'll handle good rushing attack. But that game's kind of a pass for me. I think I'm going to just let that one go. And then the other New York team, the Jets, are at the Titans. Titans -8, which is very surprising. They're kind of feast or famine team. Total's 40.5. If you think the Titans are going to cover this game, you got to bet the over. Again, low totals have been very good to me this year. If McCown plays, which I expect that he's the starter, the Jets have the coach may be playing for his job. He's definitely going to be trying to win games. That's my narrative street there. But McCown should be able to get a little bit done. I mean, he was running for his life a little bit last week, but they still have a decent rushing attack, and with Crowell, and hopefully the receivers can get a little bit done. So I do like the over there, but I don't think I would touch the -8 or the +8 for that matter. And probably the marquee game, in my opinion, this week is the Chargers at the Steelers, -3.5. Total of 52. Now, Melvin Gordon hurt himself, and he is out. I don't know if he's going to be back at all this year. That is not that much of a drop-off for the Chargers. Obviously, he's a premier back. He's one of the premier backs in the league, but Eckler is a good receiver, and he's very fast. He's not a power runner like Gordon, but hopefully they have a good goal line option so that they won't lose too much. But the Chargers should be competitive in this game. I have a feeling it's going to turn into one of those AFC air raid type of games. So I do kind of like the over here, but I don't think I would play 52. It's just kind of a number. I feel like the Chargers kicking is always an adventure. So you would probably want to get the 4 instead of the 3.5. But that wouldn't be the worst bet in the world. But the Steelers are so good at home, it's hard to bet against them. And then finally on Monday night, which to me is the most interesting game of the week. A lot of people may not consider it a marquee game at all, but the Skins at the Eagles, and this is basically an elimination game for the playoffs, as the Eagles or the Redskins, whoever loses this game, will probably be out of the NFC East running. And it's Eagles -6, which is an awful lot of points to me. Obviously, the Skins are playing with a backup quarterback. But I feel like the Skins have a better defense than, the Eagles haven't really been able to stop any kind of, running, any kind of efficient offense. So if the Skins receivers are somewhat healthy, they got the 2 big tight ends. They have a couple of decent running backs, Adrian Peterson. I kind of like the over here, 44.5. Not as much as the other overs I talked about, but this is going to be an interesting game because this will have a lot of implications on playoffs in the NFC going forward. So those are the NFL games this week. So let's wrap things up here and let's take a look at what I got for this week. So I decided with the NHL that I like the Capitals rested at home, and I'm going to take them on the puck line, minus 1.5 goals at plus 170. So that'd be a nice boost for our bankroll if that came in. With Kuznetsov back, maybe he'll score a couple. The Big 12 Championship, Texas and Oklahoma, under 77.5, minus 107. And then also on Saturday, Pitt plus 27.5 at minus 106. And on Sunday in the NFL, Bills and the Dolphins over 40 and minus 109. And the Jets and the Titans over 40.5, minus 105. So that's going to do it for the show. Thanks for watching. It's great to be back. And we'll be back next Friday with another episode. So I'm going to play the outro music here. And let's go ahead and get some winners. Take care.